Everyone, just wanted to thank you again for joining us. We will be starting shortly after 12 p.m. just to allow for a few final attendees to join us. So sit tight. We'll be starting in a few short minutes. Hello again, everyone. I know it is 12 p.m. If you are just joining us, we are going to wait a couple of more minutes for a few of our final attendees to join us. So just sit tight. We will be starting in a few short minutes. Once again, thank you for joining us. We will be starting in just one more minute. So one more minute and we will get started with answering your questions. All right, hi everybody. Welcome to our next installment of our virtual chat with Annette McLaughlin from Career Services. My name is Shannon Lully and I am the Assistant Director of the Fordham Fund for Family Giving and Engagement. So I'm sure many of you have received some emails from me in the last couple of days about this. I hope you're all staying safe. And if you're in the Northeast, you are staying warm and enjoying the start of this holiday season. Today, for our virtual chat, we are joined, as always, by the lovely Annette McLaughlin, who is the Director of Career Services, and she is joining us with Holly Young. Both of them will be available to answer your questions. Sorry, let me just make sure that our video capabilities are available. Sorry about that. Before we get started with our questions, I would just love if Annette would maybe be able to give us just a quick rundown on what resources and like the availability and accessibility of career services is over winter break, since the students are going to be home for so long, and then we can dive into questions. But before that, I do ask that Our parents, if you have any questions while this event is taking place, I ask that you please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And then myself, I will be monitoring and hopefully get to all the questions that you guys ask in there today. So Annette, please feel free to take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Shannon, and my colleague Holly here. And thank you, parents, for dialing in today. I know, we're getting into that time of the year, although it's a very different time of year this year in what we call the reality of now. First and foremost, our office is 100% available, and we are actually ramping up. We're opening up more counseling hours. What we've identified throughout the spring when we went remote, we had more counseling hours and we had more engagement with our students. This summer, it was off the charts with engagement. We noticed that during October, November, when the students came into the classroom and they were focusing on adjusting to campus, if they were on campus, or adjusting to being at home, whatever learning platform they were choosing, they were not accessing our services as much as they typically do during the academic time of year. So we're really ramping up because we anticipate there's going to be a lot more activity during this break, because we do know we have a lot of break. We know that students have had a lot of time to reflect, to step back, to think about, are they, where are they going? How are they going to get there? A lot of the questions, which we'll get to, I know talked about, how do they engage with our office if they're freshmen? We are engaging on an amazing level with employers. We've had over 600 virtual events offered since August 26 through our platform, through Handshake, by many different employers as well. So a lot of employers are now engaging multiple universities at the same time as economies of scale and an easier way to recruit. So there have been 600 that overall that we've offered. Out of that, 200 are Fordham only events. And when I say events, and all of these, or the majority, not all, but most of these have been pre-recorded. So don't worry if your student was, focused on school, which is what they needed to focus on, and adjusting in this new reality. The majority of our events have been tape recorded, pre-recorded. So we've had an enormous amount of alumni step up and offer information sessions about different majors. And everything that we do, you only really have to remember one full resource, and that's Handshake. Handshake, Handshake, Handshake. It is a career management portal. It is not a job board. It is not what any of you experienced while you were in college, because it is a brand new technology, very similar to Netflix. So the more the student uses it, the more it pre-populates jobs, events. Take a look at this. I just looked at kind of the report from Handshake, and it's an amazing data analytics. It is the same search engine optimization as Netflix, and it's an amazing reporting system. That's why I can tell you at every minute, there's sometimes a 24-hour delay. I can log on to Handshake and run a report and see how many jobs have been posted. It breaks it down by year, by industry. I can look at our top employers. I can dissect the data. And we've been using Handshake now, I think this is our 4th year. When I first came on board, that was the first big transition we made, was the summer. So we've had 3 full years. So this fall would have been going into our 4th year of using it. And so we can see exactly what industries are hiring, where. What I found interesting too was I'd forgotten about this feature, but employers can directly message students through Handshake. And so I can see how many messages employers have sent directly to students, to our students specifically, through Handshake. And I did get a message from a parent who had a student that they said that our office had no jobs for them. And I went in and ran that particular major that they were interested in, or the interest. And there were over 1,400 jobs posted for that major and for that interest. And then I actually went into the actual student and I saw that they had been messaged over 20 times by employers. So if your student is not checking Handshake, they are not using the money that you're paying to send your student to Fordham you're not getting your full value. We have all these resources, but we need the students to engage and utilize them. And we've made it so easy with Handshake. So that's the number one thing. And I know we have a lot of freshmen, so I would recommend some of the questions were about freshmen and sophomores, getting, sitting around a dining room table or the kitchen table and just having your student walk you through Handshake or go through a tutorial if you have that type of relationship. Now, these are all adults in your house, so you have to treat them as adults, and this is their career path, so they have to own it. And unless you do that, they're not going to have success, because at the end of the day, Holly and I can't go on an interview, or Shannon and you, none of us can go on an interview for your student. So they have to be able to do this on their own, but we have to teach them how to fish, and they will find success. So within Handshake, we have a resource tab, which has over 5 pages. So I think it's like 25 or 30 resources. I think we have, and 5 pages. So over 60 resources specifically for students. So anytime we find a good resource, or if your student tells us about a good resource and it's legitimate and there's no fee involved, we will, add that on our resource page. Some of the examples, we have Big Interview, and we just got some feedback from students. Use Big Interview. It is a interviewing platform, so that it's for virtual interviews, and it tape records the student. They can look at it themselves, or they can review it with a counselor. So that's definitely one. What can I do with this major? It's a great resource that goes through all the different functions and the areas that you can utilize to explore. If you're a freshman, exploring what should you major in, or if you're sophomore, or a junior, what are you going to do? Any year can use this. And so that's really key. What I like about it, when you go to the bottom, it also has all the professional associations associated with that major. So that's another key one. Although, jobs are done by major, they're also done by function, they're also done by interest. So it's important that your student knows what their strengths are and what their interests. Skills, knowledge, interest, abilities, and motivators are the 5 pillars that make up kind of the person. And 4 of them change at all phases of your life: knowledge, skills, abilities, and interests. However, what motivates you as a person, whether it's helping people, being the leader, being the commander, motivated by money, motivated by stature, there are about 16 different motivators. That 1 pillar stands still most of its life. In case you can't tell, I'm a helper. I love helping people. I've been a corporate trainer and developer and recruiter. Everything I do is about helping people, and that's what motivates me. That's what gets me excited about my job, about waking up in the morning, about everything. I get to go and make a difference and an impact on this next generation, and help them identify where their skills, interests, abilities, knowledge can be applied to the outside world, and who's hiring. What are they hiring for? And how can that's the strategy, the strategic part. How can you pull all those things together that land in an actual job? So I think, I've colored some highlights. Holly, we also have specific websites on there, like Idealist for nonprofits. We'll have one for finance people. We'll have one for media and communication. So there are certain free job boards too that we will put through that. And of course, Handshake does have, I did not run the job report now, but at last count, we'd had over 15,000 jobs posted for this since August 26 alone. Last year, we had a total of 46,000 jobs posted in Handshake. We're down about 15 to 20% from prior year, but that's certainly understandable in this pandemic. And I tell every student, all they need is one opportunity, one door opened to make it. So Holly, did I miss any of you have to look at all the 6 pages, but that's a couple of the highlights of things that students use the most.
I would second that. I'm looking at the question in the Q&A box, and yes, what can I do with this major is on Handshake. As Annette mentioned, Handshake is a one-stop shop. I would really encourage you to take a look at that. It's a fantastic resource. Not only can you find these databases, these resources, like Annette mentioned, the job board, internship platform, event calendar, you can make an appointment with a career advisor, which we highly encourage your student to do during this time. We are available. We would love to connect with your student. We do recognize finals is a challenging time. if and when the student is ready, we are here for them. We always joke that around Thanksgiving, we get a nice little surge in student engagement because our students know you're going to be asking them over the dinner table, what have you guys been doing? And we welcome it, we embrace it. Please have your students set up an appointment with us. And I can vouch for Annette as a member of her team. She is a helper. She's helped me many times personally and professionally. So the student is in good hands with us.
Thank you.
Thank you both. We did have one question come through the chat. Can parents look at Handshake? Is there a link, or do they have to log in through or view it with their student or through their student's account?
They do have to review it through their student's account, or I don't know if there's a demo that you could access through Handshake. And or if your employer uses Handshake to post jobs, you might have an employer account, which could potentially be a different view, but I'll put a plug in. If you are in an employer, and you do have micro internships, full-time opportunities, please encourage them to look at the Fordham students. We have amazing students. They are somewhat humble and don't promote themselves as strong as other universities do as students, but they are amazing. And we're very fortunate. We have 21 student workers this semester, which is unheard of. And each and every one of them we've gotten to know and just love working with them. And they're so resourceful and helpful. We typically only have about 5 or 6 at each campus, but because our office was physically open and we were one of the few offices on campus physically open, we were able to really not take advantage. We benefited, and the student benefited from being part of our office this fall and into the spring as well. So that's another great resource and opportunity.
Great, thank you. And just to piggyback off something Annette said, all of our virtual chats with Annette are recorded. I will send this recording to you in a follow-up email a little bit later today. And you can also view them and past webinars we've hosted with other departments on the Family Webinar Series playlist on Fordham University's YouTube page. So if you lose the link in your inbox and you couldn't make it or something, they are available on YouTube. And I'm more than happy to share that link with you in our follow-up email as well. Diving into questions, first off, how can an undecided freshman or just an undecided student who's doing Fordham remotely make connections during the holiday break that will help him figure out a major?
I would start with Holly's #1 recommendation is schedule a counseling appointment with one of us, because we can then give the individualized attention and answer very specific questions for that individual and go over the resources that are there. It is overwhelming when I just told you 600 events. How do you know what to do, what not to do? Handshake, if you've never logged on, it's very intuitive, but it does help. And with the remote learning, we can log in and share screens and help set up some searches, from job searches, and go to that resource page and make it very specific. And we can also, Holly's more my assessment person. And, she knows all of the assessment tests. If they want to learn what their skills, interests, and abilities are, we have those tests for free available to all students. So #1, I would get them familiar with Handshake, schedule an appointment, get it on our calendar. We love that. That's what we love to do. And then we can help guide them through the process. They can also look back at all of our Q&As with our alumni about specific interests or specific industries. So we had a lot of Q&As that were recorded. There is a general overview of Handshake. There's a career 101. We're trying to change some of the names because it's like career 101 sounds boring, but it's not. It's because we love what we do. But we're trying, and then we have little snippets of information. In addition to that, we've just partnered with LinkedIn Learning. And so Fordham University has partnered with LinkedIn Learning, and our office will be putting together a career development path through LinkedIn Learning and promote that to students so that they can gain additional skills. This generation loves videos. They love YouTube. They like to look at, 2 a.m, midnight, like they're not on my time frame. Nothing is 9 to 5. And the only thing, we have remote learning and the ability to access our students globally 24/7 with all of our resources, other than the individual counseling. That's the one that we make evening hours available, particularly because we are global. But we, everything else the student can access at when they want to.
Great, thanks, Annette. A couple questions have come through the chat, and they're pretty similar. For making appointments, for a student to make an appointment with a career counselor, are you and your office available prior to the students returning on February 1st? And should they email you to schedule an appointment or do that on Handshake?
They can go to Handshake and they can see our counselor availability. We are 100% working. We are even adding hours, evening hours. My office actually just went remote as of Monday, December 7th because of the numbers. I mean, the students are gone other than our basketball teams. They're great on campus. I love seeing them, but the other students, have gone home to be with you. And so yes, we are 100% remote, 100% working as of this Monday, and the availability is online in Handshake under counseling and scheduling an appointment. However, if you run into any problems, I'll obviously, you'll have my information and Holly's information to reach out to us directly. They can also go on the Career Services website and see the different counselors, and we have our little bios. So if there's a particular interest or specialty that they're interested in or major, we do have people that have more experience in that and kind of focus on that too.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, to Annette's point, we have a grad school advisor. We have members of our employer relations team that work closely with employers, which is great. They get both perspectives. What are employees looking for? What are students looking for? It's a two-way conversation. So something that's really unique about our department, many career services offices will have a separate side of the house for employer relations, and counseling would be kind of its own side. Here, counseling is at the heart of what each and every one of us do. So we all bring something different to the table. I would encourage your students to take a look at our bios and find the counselor that fits for them.
Great, thank you both. The next question we have is kind of two-sided. What tips can you recommend to get kids to engage with the resources when they don't always take their parents' recommendations? And then to piggyback off that, are there any suggestions to get kids to make personal outreach a part of their typical online job application method?
So the first thing is, I'll take that one personally because I'm a parent of two college students, and I'm director of career services. You're listening to me as an expert, right? My own children won't listen to me, so I get it. So it's so their peers are helpful if you can motivate them with their peers. So just getting them. As when they were little, you bribed them to do things like, give them some incentive, something to do other than, make some money, get a job. This is some little reward for going on. We make it fun. Our people are fun. I love to have fun. Everyone in my team loves to have fun. So we're not boring. It's not your parents' career services, that's for sure. We are very forward thinking, very different. I come from corporate recruiting and training development. I spend more time talking to people outside what's happening in their environment than I do inside. Other than my students, definitely with the students. So we understand if they're involved in any clubs, we try and get into the classroom as often as we can. What are their interests? What are the clubs that they're involved in? We typically will go in and partner with different clubs. We have guest speakers come in that might interest them. We're always doing different things. When we're on campus, we give free meals, we give free ice cream, we have a pop-up tent, we're out everywhere. And we were still out everywhere this fall. It's just we didn't have the mass of students. So we'd put up a pop-up tent and we'd get 10 or 12 students, where normally we would have 200 students that we would engage with. The Handshake on an app, so we know students rarely go to their computer. So have them download the Handshake in the app so that they can get that. If you tell them, once they go on and they start doing some things, it's going to feed them jobs. It's going to feed them ideas. It's going to feed them things. So a little bit of effort will yield a lot of results. So I think have them look at our TikTok, have them look at our Instagram. Like we meet the students where they are. And so I think once they start seeing us and meet our FCAs, that's a cute little TikTok video. And they're just like real people doing the things that they love to do. And they'll start to relate to themselves. The other big part of this, and one of the wonderful things that I love about Handshake, is they now have a peer-to-peer messaging. So it's under the student tab. So students can go in and look at students just like them and send them a quick message, and it also pre-populates the message. So all they have to fill in is it actually fills their name in, and then they have to fill in their major and if they're, and a couple of other things, why they're interested, but it actually pre-populates a connection message to them. So we're fun, we're open, we're engaging. Have them try and have that student try and find something that we can interest. We are working with the academic side to see how we can incorporate career development into the curriculum and what we can do about that. Obviously, if they're going to be looking for a summer job or internship, spring internship, summer internship, they will need the piece of paper called the resume. We have templates. So a lot of times students are motivated by some type of action or result. Like, I'm only going to do this because I'm going to get a resume out of it. And the end of that is, then I'll be able to interview. That's not it. That's just the beginning, but definitely that's a way to engage them. We are working with the academic side, trying to incorporate them whenever we can come into the classroom, we do that. You also have to understand that we have the connections to the employers. So we can set them up not only with Handshake, but also with the Forever Fordham network of alumni. And then People Grove is a new network of alumni that we just launched. And we also have micro internships under Parker Dewey. So they may not be able to do a full internship, but a 2-week, a 3-week, they're special projects that they get paid for. So that's another opportunity. Holly, you've been at Fordham longer than I have. How else do you engage people?
I love everything you said. I love this question. I find it so funny. I have a brother who won't listen to me at all as well, so I kind of understand. I would say absolutely have your student connect with us. I've had students say to me in the past, oh, I thought I had to wear a suit to come see you. They felt it was super intimidating. And I would say, no, come in your sweats. That's okay, as long as you wear a suit to the interview. So we're friendly. We'll meet your student where they're at. So it could be big questions like, I have no idea what I want to do with my life, or I thought I was on the pre-med track and I want to change. I'm changing, I'm starting over. What can I do? Or it could be as specific as I have an interview tomorrow. I mean, hopefully the interview won't be the next day, but we can get very granular as well. Like Annette said, I would say oftentimes my first appointment with a student is to build that resume. A student will come see me and say, I have nothing. And then you have a 10-minute conversation, and all of a sudden they have this amazing page and they're like, oh my God, who knew I was so wonderful, Students are encouraged to tell their story, and it's really empowering for them. And then from there, they get the interview. We do interview prep. And then from there we talk networking. And to Annette's point, the relationship starts. And I love meeting with freshmen because, I've met with students for their entire 4 years and stay engaged as alums. So it's really full circle. And to Annette's point as well, we have such a vibrant alumni network. They want Fordham students. They approach us every day. We want to hire a Fordham student. We want to hire a Fordham intern. And all of them, we direct them to Handshake. So as soon as your student connects with us to understand how we can help them, we are here to talk to them about, like we said, big and small questions alike. And, how can we connect? Social feeds, like Annette mentioned, we won't follow you back, I promise, but, follow us, see what's going on. If we're, have an event with Google, they'll know, it'll come up in their feed. So it's just great for them to get a sense of the exciting employers that we're partnering with every day. And lastly, I guess I would say our FCA program, just to clarify that, Annette mentioned, that's our Fordham Career Ambassador program. So those are students that are super engaged with our department. So it's kind of like a club. You'll see that often if you go to the Office of Student Employment's website, you'll see that Fordham has over 100 clubs. And this could be cultural clubs. It could be, based on your interests, like the Marketing Association. It could be, we have a FinTech club. So there are tons of opportunities. There's Fashion for Philanthropy. I'm actually the club advisor for some of the fashion clubs. So there are tons of these amazing connections. And these are like-minded students, go-getting students that your student can connect with. This will be their network for now and for later. So the Career Ambassador program, what I love about it, it's not too specific. You're not only going to be with, let's say, the fashion students or the finance students. We have students across the board. We have theater students. We can have philosophy students. We can have medieval history students. What all these students have in common, they're just go-getters. It's a fun club. We're super engaged with them. And if you ask me, it's a very strategic club to be a part of because, of course, we know players, and the more we know your student, the more we can help them and say, oh, I just saw this, maybe you'd be interested. So please tell your student to connect with us either for a counseling appointment or to get involved with our office. And it's not a huge commitment. You get out what you put in. So you could be an FCA and you could just join us for the fun stuff, or you could be super engaged. We have some FCAs that are like full-time team members that we just love to have them. So there are tons of ways to get involved. Just please encourage your students to take a look and connect with us so that we can engage with them in however capacity they want.
I can speak to that as well, as I'm a Fordham grad myself, graduated in 2016. I have parents who were very involved in the job search process, and I was definitely not always all ears when it came to their advice and their suggestions, but I can, hindsight's always 2020, but I recommend completely reaching out to the career services team. And like Annette and Holly have said, they can kind of cater their meetings and approach to what your student needs. So hopefully they're not too intimidated. It's a great resource that we have. Following up on something you both mentioned earlier, are there any micro internships or other short-term opportunities that are available over the break?
Yes, so I would look at, we have a relationship with Parker Dewey, and that's specifically a micro internship platform. So you can look to see what is available. Opportunities there now. There are also a lot of part-time opportunities listed on Handshake. I don't know, what part of the country you're in, et cetera. But I do think that there is, I know we all have to be cautious about the virus. Number one, there are a lot of positions that are open, and there are a lot of companies that are doing virtual. I will say we've seen an uptick in employer attitude towards hiring. I mean, what I mean by that is August, September, October, everybody was kind of on hold and pause. It's not that they weren't recruiting, some were, but those that didn't know, they just didn't know. Now that we actually have a vaccine that's being administered as of today, the first day, now that it's going to be rolling out pretty quickly, there's a lot more employer optimism. And so I've seen an uptick in actual jobs posted, and recruiters that had things on pause are now starting to interview. We still think it might not be till spring or summer that they go back, in person, but now there's optimism in the marketplace as far as jobs go. So there is more for that. I think it's also shifting. I'm working with the Westchester Biotech, and they're creating an innovation data hub. And so we're going to have opportunities for that. Most of those jobs are going to be remote. And so a lot of employers have found that remote working is very beneficial and cost savings for them. So they are having a lot more remote internships than we've ever seen in the past. Obviously, a lot of the workforce is remote right now. I did want to mention Fordham Futures. Just as, parents, you asked if you could see Handshake. I would have you take a look at Fordham Futures. It is kind of like the 4-year map of what student in an ideal world students would be doing this their freshman year, these 3 things these 10 things their freshman year, their sophomore year, their junior year, their senior year. So as Holly, we always meet students where they are if they haven't done anything, and I've had that happen. They're the senior that comes into my office the day after graduation, and they have usually it's like a 3.9 and they've done nothing because they've been focused on studies. And I was like, okay, well, we got to get to where you need to be, and then as quickly as possible, and we're going to do that. At least you got the good GPA, so I can work with that a little bit easier. So we always meet students where they are. And on the flip side, if your student has a lower GPA and isn't performing as well academically, and like I said, I have 2 college students, this remote learning is a challenge. And so, maybe the GPA is not where. This actually would be the time to take a pass-fail. And everybody's just gonna go, oh, it was COVID, I get it. So if that's an option for your student, but also being able to tell the why in the interview process. We also have students, who go through tragic times, and we've all lost people during this. And it's a way we work with them and coach them in the interview process to kind of explain, don't overlook me because of the GPA. I had a bad semester, and sometimes it's hard to dig out, and we can help craft that story and help make it, so that the GPA is not the end all be all, which it's not, because at the end of the day, you got to go in and be able to do the job regardless.
Thank you, Annette. Another question. Excuse me. Should students take advantage of volunteering or shadowing opportunities as opposed to an official internship over the break if it's a chance to get some work experience?
Yes, yes, and yes. I am moving away from the word internship and broadening it to experience. So absolutely. if your student can shadow someone, can apprentice, can go in and spend half a day, that is very valuable. I did, my son, when he was a freshman or sophomore, I can't remember which, he went in and shadowed with several people, and that gave him an insight into some things he got to shadow someone at Pepsi in sales, and he never would have thought of that, and someone in real estate. So just spending time with people in the workforce is incredibly valuable. They figure out what they like or they don't like. Do you want to sit behind a desk? Do you want to be out, running around? So definitely volunteer. The micro internships, the apprenticeships, I think that we're going to see apprenticeships come back. They're not really viable right now, but I'm seeing them start to pop up. And then certainly shadowing opportunities. We are looking to kind of create a formal shadowing process, which we were looking to do before COVID. And so that's sort of been on hold with the COVID experience. But those are all, anywhere your student can get experience that's going to expose them to connection, because it's connections and experiences that equal getting a job, and being able to articulate it. But those two things are the two most important ingredients, and then our help in the coach and guiding you to articulate that.
Great, thank you. Another question, where, if possible, can a student find a list of current internships with organizations or employers who have had partnerships or relationships with Fordham or Fordham students in the past?
So we have our strategic partners that are listed, and we also have our signature partners. So those will be listed. All the jobs will be on Fordham, on Handshake that are there. You can also look at the outcomes report, our first destination outcomes, which is on Fordham's website, and it's going to show you the top employers at Fordham every year. So you can definitely see that. I'm very proud that the New York City Ballet made it to the top employers. What you also have to remember is, like, the bulge bracket firms and the banks that hire in bulk are obviously going to be there because they hire a lot of people. So once you get down to one or two hires, we have a list of thousands of employers. So you can definitely use that. You can use the peer-to-peer mentoring through Handshake. You can put a company's name in and then select Fordham only in that, and see what students or alumni come up that are part of that. And trying to think where we definitely have the top employers with our students. When they look at the events and the workshops and the Q&As, obviously those are employers that come and hire from us. We can also, like, if we do specific industries, or another great place, sorry about that, is go through all of our career fairs. We held career fairs all fall. We always kick it off with accounting and finance. So if you have any accounting and finance students here, make sure that your student is ready to, everybody in finance needs to be ready in July to start the interview process. That's actually when the job boards open for that. But certainly the second week on campus around September 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, that's typically our first career fair, which is accounting and finance. So I was going to say, go to the virtual career fairs, go to past events, virtual career fairs, and look up what employers were there. And that's where you're going to see who hires Fordham students. We did not host our 250, 300 employer career fair this fall, which is obviously typically in person, where we have 1,000 students that come to that career fair. It's our biggest event. Instead, we took the 6 major industries, matched with the majors of our students and their interest. And we took those 6 industries and had industry specific, we called them networking events. And one was sports marketing. And the reason I have to say this is we had the sports marketing one with about 10 employers. One of the graduates that I'm working with just got a call from that career fair yesterday that someone he met in November is now reaching out. They think they have an opportunity. So those are some good resources just to do your research to figure out who's coming to Fordham, who's hiring from Fordham as well.
Great, thank you. Aside from LinkedIn, is there a way to access Fordham alumni in a certain geographic area? This person is listing Dallas, Fort Worth, for their student to connect.
So there's the Forever Fordham, which is the alumni directory. So you could put in location, Dallas, Fort Worth. And that will show who are those people. I know we have a lot of Texans, in the Parents Leadership Council, so that might PLC. Shannon, you might be able to make some connections there. Certainly, if you go to Handshake itself, you can put in Dallas Fort Worth and see who's hiring. When our employers post jobs, they also put that they have that they are an alum. So we ask, so we actually tag our alumni that are posting jobs, so we can understand that as well. I don't know, Holly, did I miss something there? Those are a couple different places.
I actually love LinkedIn. I think it's the most current, up-to-date source. So if you can search even by field or company of interest, you can see, like I said before, we have a vibrant alumni network all over the city, across industries, and across cities too now. I guess it's really a global. I've been telling students to expand their search for internships, to volunteer. You could attend a conference in Utah from your living room in New Jersey. Why not? So the virtual space has opened up tons of opportunity, believe it or not, which I think is really exciting. I would also like to mention reciprocity. That is something that I think is a really amazing value add as part of the Jesuit community. So we, with all of our partnering Jesuit institutions, we have a reciprocity process where if your student wants to use the resources of a Jesuit school in Texas and California and anywhere, you can reach out to our department and we can reach out on your student's behalf to allow your student, it could be access to the local job board, it could be access to the events. Each institution kind of defines what that looks like, but we do have a partnership. And conversely, a student from anywhere can use our resources. So that's just like a fantastic value add as well, just, to plug our Jesuit network.
Great, thank you both. And again, as an alum, I can speak heavily to the great alumni network that Fordham has all over the place. Obviously, particularly in New York, but now I think in this virtual space, you can connect with way more people much, much easier than we could a few years ago. Following up with something, I know the Fordham Futures website kind of touched on this a little bit, but I don't know, Annette, if you wanted to elaborate. Do you have any maybe short, quick pieces of advice for what somebody like a freshman or a sophomore should be doing for like career exploration? So the beginning of their career stage as a freshman or sophomore, and then maybe as a junior or senior as they're looking for full-time employment.
So that freshman year, I recommend, get adjusted to academics, figure out what you like in the classroom and where you excel there. Come and visit our office. Actually first log on to Handshake just so you have the account when they first send it to you when you get accepted and matriculated in. Then come to visit us before Thanksgiving, just so you have something to talk to with your parents when you're around the Thanksgiving table, and start to work on putting together a resume and those interests. If you have no idea what you want to do, take the assessment test. And you may want to take the assessment test of your interest as a freshman or a sophomore, and then again closer to the end of your time, because that may change. A lot of, 30% of students change their majors at least once. So that's definitely freshman year. First, get adjusted, find your group of people, get involved in a club. You need to be engaged, even online. I know you freshman parents, it's so hard, but if they can join a club that they're excited about, or find something, a cappella group or the theater group or whatever it is that interests them. Think about what they did in high school that they really enjoyed to try and mimic that, or something they never tried. So that's freshman year, because it's just a huge adjustment, and even more with this remote learning and COVID. Sophomore year is really where the academics ramp up significantly, and especially if you're pre-med, it's organic chem. I'm going through that right now with my daughter, and it's heavy duty, or math and computer science, all of those. A lot of academically, it's very challenging, and the core is very challenging in general, because we all don't excel at everything, but Fordham makes you take everything, so you learn everything, which is a foundation you will always have, that I think is so amazing. Then for sophomore, declaring your major is a big time. We typically go in with the dean, the sophomore dean, and help the students that are still deciding as to which direction to go, and work very collaborative, work with their academic deans on that. So sophomore year is big, because your spring of your sophomore year, you have to declare. Although things can change, but it creates a lot of stress. Sophomore year, but around this time, make sure you're working with our office, thinking about what you're going to do this summer, thinking about summer jobs. Well, I don't know what, my daughter still waitressed last summer, but waitressing, at the private clubs, the camp counselors, those are a lot of the things that my kids did their freshman and sophomore years, which were very beneficial. And one thing I'll say, we know money is tight for everybody. A lot of private clubs actually have scholarships for college. And if your child likes golf or works in a golf shop or anything to do with golf, there's also the caddy scholarship. If they're caddies, they give a lot of money to students that work, in the golf industry. So that's another place where you think, oh, I'm just making an hourly wage and this is low end. You're making great connections, and they may have scholarships for college. So that's another thing. So sophomore year, there might be some internships, even freshman and sophomore year. Try these micro internships, try the job shadowing, do something that makes them feel good and have confidence in themselves, build connections. Customer service roles are great, or build skills if you're more of the introvert on the technology and that piece of it. Junior year is you do want to be completely ready for the fall to interview heavily for your junior internships in the summer. Our accounting finance will start off in the fall, very heavily, very intense. So they have to be all prepped for that. And then in the spring, it's more our media, communications, other areas. STEM is somewhere in late fall, early thing. All of our career fairs or networking events by industry are specifically done during the hiring season. And we also have a great document that shows when most industries hire that'll help. So junior year is, once again, academics matter, so doing well, figuring out, having confidence in themselves and having that confidence boost that they're headed in the right direction. And then senior year is all about being with your friends, enjoying your college experience. We'd like to say they loved. Some are very serious, focused on their careers. Many just are like, it's your last hurrah to be in this amazing environment where you don't have your parents around, and the people that are around are safety nets. When you mess up, they help you get out of that. It's a learning opportunity. The brain is not, you're not fully executive functioning until 25. So just remember that, parents, that's people make, that age group makes a lot of mistakes. And in a college setting, we have the resources, we have the understanding of that, and we work with your students when they do mess up, and we help build them up. Right now, number one, mental health. The amount of stress, anxiety, depression in this world with our students is off the charts. So for you as parents, know what the signs are, get help, as needed. Fordham has amazing services. Holly, many of my team have mental health counseling degrees. However, we're in a career counseling role. But when we're meeting with students one-on-one, whether it's virtually or in person, we are tuned in to how they are doing emotionally. And I always keep a box of tissues right next to me, because inevitably people get sad. They feel frustrated. They feel like they're not keeping up. So Holly, that was not short, but I think it's important that we really do take the Cure Personalis, and we're building the center for the Career Center for Cure Personalis as we move into the campus center, because it's all about mind, body, and spirit. You show up, your whole person shows up at work. So we got to have the whole person be healthy.
Yeah, I love that, Annette. I think that's really at the heart of what we do. So we are the Center for Cure Personalis, mind, body, spirit. It's all about career education, wellness, and, we say occupational wellness. We want your son and daughter to love what they do. Of course, we're going to help them find the money-making jobs, the green jobs, the side hustles, so that they can sustain themselves while they pursue their long-term career goals. But at the end of the day, we want your student to love what they do. we all know that what you do, I mean, we spend more time with our colleagues than well, maybe not anymore. Now we're with our family. They're our office mates now, I guess. But we want to make sure that your student loves what they do and they find that balance of what they're interested in, their passions, their goals, whatever they might be, and we can have those conversations. I did see someone ask the question, what is the assessment test? So here's a plug. If you go to Fordham Career Services, you can find under career exploration something called Type Focus. This is free for your student. And guess what? You guys can log in. It's free for you if you're interested in doing a Myers-Briggs test, revisiting that. It's a quick multiple choice, could take 5 minutes. I love it. I'm a real career assessment nerd. Fun fact, it's run by Match.com. I mean, for us, we use it for, workplace happiness, but it's really interesting. It's personality. Do you enjoy working as part of a team independently? And all of it is, of course, on a spectrum. So it's just interesting language for your students to sell themselves with. All of a sudden they get this great little synopsis like, oh, who knew I was a catalyst for change? It's just fun stuff for the interview. So I would highly encourage you and your students to take a look at that. But yeah, no, I think, to Annette's point as well, it's trial and error, isn't it? I always tell students, you might not know what you want, but you do know what you don't want. So it's really just a matter of seeing what's out there, trying new things, especially as a freshman, whether it's a club, getting involved with the FCAs, getting involved with an academic department, volunteer, and just seeing what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, and that's okay. And it's a natural process, and we can help you refine that as you go down the line. So I would just say early engagement, get to know us, look at Handshake, see what's out there, look on LinkedIn, see what's out there, and then, yeah, just try it. Just try it and see what sticks. And we can help you with that story.
Great, thank you. Another question, what are some ways that you recommend students to connect with prospective employers or just people in the professional world if they can't do so over like the casual coffee that has typically happened in the past, given the COVID times? Is an email appropriate, a Zoom meeting? What do you guys recommend?
We've had, starting with a type of communication like an email, a Zoom call, a phone call. I think a lot of employers now appreciate, or a lot of people appreciate just a phone call because their eyesight is greatly deteriorating. But certainly a Zoom is fine. 5 or 10 minutes of their time just to learn more is very helpful. I have had some students, they are still meeting people for coffee, 6 feet away, with masks, making sure everything is everybody's comfortable with that situation. And it also depends on what part of the country you are and what's happening there. So certainly you're going to do the best you can. Your neighbors, friends and family, just being curious about what friends and family do, what neighbors do, and looking at things from a different perspective now that they're, getting to the job market. There might be a lot of people family members, they can just have casual conversations with about how they got into their careers. What do they do? What do they like? And I think they'll be really surprised at the responses that you get and that information.
I'd also love to add that, for this generation, I find our students are so enterprising and they're, without even trying, I've met with students who have told me some of the amazing creative approaches they've had to this that have worked. So when COVID first hit, I was talking to some of my students that were part of my fashion club, and they had these wonderful opportunities. And I asked them, how were they able to make that connection? And they just said they were bold. They kind of were back home in their hometown. They reached out to the local boutique that they went to growing up and said, hey, I'd love to get you online. It's so natural. It's like second nature for these students to work on Instagram and all these social channels. And it's almost like reaching out, not necessarily cold calling, but it's not an opportunity that was necessarily posted. It's reaching out to the small businesses to say, can I offer my skill set to you? They're creating their own opportunities. It's really wonderful to see. So I would say, be bold, be creative. Now is the time to think outside the box. I love those conversations. So again, please direct your student to me or someone on our team, because we will talk it out with your student to say, okay, so this is what you're interested in. Where can we look? And there are warm contexts, there are cold contexts, and everything in between. And we could talk strategy with them.
And that's so key, go with your familiar right now in this type of environment. Like Holly was saying, your local boutiques, local stores, local employers. It's just been amazing. Schools, every one of your children went to high school somewhere. Those are people they know, that it's a great time to reconnect with those people. I have an athlete that I'm working with, and he's now reached out to his high school to see if he can help do some coaching while he looks for his full-time job. I have someone else, another former student that graduated and reached back out, started helping coaching, and then actually got hired this fall to do academic advising in a high school. And it wasn't at all the path they thought they were going to take, but they loved working with students, they loved coaching, and then all of a sudden this academic position became available, and he's so happy doing that.
I tell students to really broaden their search. I love big names. I love small businesses. I love, all of the above. I think with a lot of our big businesses, we've seen restructuring. Maybe some are becoming a little more lean. It's the small businesses that are adding new roles. They see new areas of opportunity. So I hope that your student is broadening their search and looking across the board at all different industries and how can they apply their niche skill set to that field. Annette and I once mentioned for our theater students, when we didn't have any live shows going on and it felt as if performing arts wasn't really happening, it was so interesting to know that there was students that were being hired for data science to look at donor bases and things like that. So there is opportunity across the board. Just have your student be creative and look everywhere.
Great, thank you both. Maybe one final question. Do you both have any advice for students, particularly those who are interested in pursuing either law school, med school, or graduate school, who are also interested in taking a gap year after graduating from undergrad? What are some good ways to connect and get experience for those students while they are taking that gap year?
So I think, I don't know, Holly, you love that one. That's one of yours.
Well, I was going to say, I'm working with tons of students who have now approached me to say they're interested in going to grad school. And the first question I will ask, do they know what it is that they want to do? What is the career goal? And is grad school absolutely necessary for that goal? So I wouldn't want your student to just jump into a grad program to almost like delay the inevitable. I don't really know what I want. Maybe I'll do this. I would highly recommend against that. But again, it should be a one-on-one conversation with your students to understand what the goals are. But if your student knows for sure what they want to do, they know that this degree is 100% necessary for what they want to do. They've had those conversations to see how would this advance their career, their earning potential. There's some real value adds and benefits to going to this grad program. We could then talk about building that list. So it's almost like the job search, or almost even like looking at the college process, right? It's identifying all the different schools, how those grad programs differentiate themselves, because believe it or not, each grad program is its own little brand and business. Understanding who the professors are, what their research interests are, understanding the deadlines, can you defer for a year? So it's really understanding letters of recommendation, how do I approach that process? So we can talk to your student at any stage in the game if this is something they see for themselves down the road. If they then get accepted, they can choose the program that's right for them. And if they choose to defer and take a gap year, that's wonderful. Work, get experience, build that up. So we can talk to your student about each and every possibility. But to me, there's value in every single path. As long as you know where you want to land, we can talk to you about how to get there.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. Annette, unless we had something that you wanted to add to that.
I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Shannon and Holly, for doing this. We love working with your students, and they are so special. This year is really one to really just be grateful for every day that we have. And I know the job search can be an incredibly stressful time for all of us and for all of you. There is hope. All everybody needs is one, and we are here. My whole team is dedicated to making sure that we provide every student at Fordham an opportunity. And we've just launched Rams Helping Rams for the class of 2020. And we are, it's a dedicated group of alumni that are determined to ensure that the class of 2020, all the people that are interested actually land and find that opportunity. And then secondly, we're looking and hoping to expand that for the class of 2021. And we tried it as a pilot. It's very successful, and we're looking forward to your support. And if you have any micro internships, any jobs, please come connect with us. We'd love to help you. Also, if you're a Fordham alum, we provide career coaching for life. So you have our access to our availability as well. And I just thank you.
Great. Thank you so much to Annette and Holly. To all of our parents who joined us today, thank you. I will be sending a follow-up email shortly with some key takeaways from today's event and some helpful links, as well as a link to the recording and then a link to the university's YouTube page where you can view any past virtual chats with Annette and then some other webinars we have hosted. We have a few with the study abroad office as well, if that's something you or your student is interested in. As always, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, anybody on my team, or Annette and Holly if you have any questions. We hope you really enjoyed today's session, and we will be continuing these in the new year, so stay tuned for some additional dates and information on that. I hope you enjoy the holidays and you're staying safe and warm. Thank you, and I'll see you guys again soon.